Hey everybody, welcome to another webinar with GiveSmart. I'm Brandon Steck, Director of Marketing with GiveSmart by Community Brands. I've got with me Diane Cleaver, our VP of Sales at GiveSmart, and Jason Champion, who's Director of Product Development and Marketing with Winspire. So welcome guys, really excited for this topic today.
Thanks Brandon, happy to be here.
Yep, excited, this is going to be fun.
I think the most exciting part is probably our title, Gobble, Gobble. Seems very appropriately here with Thanksgiving coming around the corner, but we're going to talk about all kinds of different ways to say thanks, some reminders, hopefully some new stuff, just some housekeeping stuff. If you have a question, there's a box on your GoToWebinar panel on the right there to put questions in. I'm going to be monitoring those. We will try and get as many in as we can, and then after the webinar, we always do address the questions that we couldn't get to in a follow-up email. We are recording the webinar, so if you have to leave early, you will be able to get the recording to listen, or if you'd like to revisit one of those slides or pieces of information that Jason and Diane share, we will make sure you have that so you can be on top of all the different content. All right, let's jump in. So we're going to start with a poll today. We just want to know, who are you thanking? And while we let everyone kind of put their responses in there, we're going to just get a quick summary of who Winspire is and what you guys are doing there, Jason. What's kind of been the mission moment for you so far?
Hello. So I was going to do my turkey gobble, but I don't know if people would find that offensive or not. So I'm just not going to do it today, but gobble, gobble. Super excited to be on here. My name is Jason Champion. I'm the Director of Product Development at Winspire. We're the largest provider of cool bucket list travel experiences to nonprofits to assist in your fundraising. I've got over a decade of technology and fundraising and event planning experience, and this is really a topic that I love because this is how we can continue to cultivate those donors of the future.
That's awesome, Jason. I was really looking forward to the gobble gobble sound, but I guess maybe later in the presentation we'll get that. We'll let a few more get in here as people are still joining, and then we'll show the results of this poll, looking at it just as they're populating here. I think there's going to be some interesting stuff. So why don't we go ahead and push that. All right, so Diane, Jason, as we look at this, thank God no one said no one.
Right.
But what do we think here? What's your reaction to that?
No, you know what? My reaction is it's actually as I kind of predicted. I think that what we see out there when we're talking to our nonprofit partners is that donors, yes, obviously everybody's thanking those donors, and so what I see here is expected. Interesting how staff, not as much, board, volunteers, so it's good. We're going to talk about a lot of, covering all of these in our gratitude and thanks for this webinar. Good stuff.
That's awesome. Jason, what are your thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, it's not shocking information, but I am a little disappointed to see that there's only 38% saying they're thanking their staff, because we all know that as in a nonprofit, you're overworked, underpaid, and what you do goes far beyond just the 9 to 5. And, as peer groups and executive leadership team at Winspire, we always try to complement each other as our peers, as we have big goals that we try to reach, and we motivate and support each other as well. And that's something that staff should always take in consideration.
Awesome. I'm sure some of the stuff that we're going to talk about will address some of the things, but let's look at the agenda here. Hopefully everyone can see here the few things we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about showing appreciation just in general, of different ways to do so. We're going to talk about some of the tools and resources that are available to you to do these different methods of thanking people. And then finally, post-event communications. What do you do after that event? What are some different ways to mix it up? Why don't we jump in, Diane? We want to make sure we cover everything. So get us started here and talk a little bit about ways to show across your ecosystem.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brandon. Before we jump in, though, coincidentally, I was reading an article this morning from Psychology Today. Today's Psychology, I forget. It's a blog I get daily. But did you know that scientifically there are positive benefits to showing and living a life of gratitude. So this is very, very appropriate, right? It increases mental health. It helps you sleep better, better self-esteem, and opens the door to better relationships. So today's webinar isn't just about your organization and your donors. This is a good one for all of you. So at least for me, I thought, how appropriate. But to the slide. Okay, when we say ecosystem, we are talking about, you know, that poll we just conducted. It's not just your donors, but it's your staff, it's your board, it's your volunteers, the entire ecosystem. And today we're going to talk about the importance of thanking everyone. So Jason, why don't we chat a bit about some ways to show appreciation for the donors and the volunteers to start?
Yes, a great way to do that. And of course, everyone knows that I love being on camera because I love sharing information that we just don't think about sometimes because we do get bogged down with our daily minutia. But social video is a great way for donors and volunteers because Facebook Live, I call this kind of a surprise and delight on a public platform. You can record a message from some of the staff on the board, honorees, ambassadors, or even recipients delivering the thank you message. It's free. Let me say that again. It's free. And we all work on free budgets a lot of the times. So it's free, it's an authentic video, and it's a great way just to express gratitude to where everyone gets to see instead of just someone getting a thank you note. And there's nothing wrong with a thank you note, but this is a public thing. And one of the favorite things that I saw this last year was the Nature Conservancy. They sent out a short video from the scientist in the field just saying thank you. It was very meaningful and completely unexpected. And I thought that was just very, very well executed and had everybody of different nationalities and colors and creeds and speaking in accents. It was just really meaningful and unique to what they do.
Excellent. Yeah, and people love video, right? But you mentioned, Jason, you know, that handwritten thank you note, still out there, still popular. So, I mean, even though social media is huge, we don't want to forget that, you know, especially for your larger donors and even some of your more senior donors, we know they like those handwritten notes. So we've even seen some organizations get really creative and send along maybe programs from an event or photos, you know, actual printed photos to add a personal touch to those handwritten thank yous. You can also consider, we've seen a little of this going on, a giveaway in your handwritten thank you. So something like maybe a photo magnet, which is why we have this refrigerator here, right? Lovely old refrigerator. You know, people stick those magnets on the fridge, keep them around, and it's not only a reminder of a good time, you know, good party, maybe they attended, but also to support your organization throughout the year and come back next year. And the marketing side, Brandon would give me kudos on this. Make sure it has your logo. You know, you always want to have it as a memory, but also a little advertisement for sure. That's great for donors. Now, for staff and volunteers, those magnets are great too. But you know what's a nice touch? We saw this recently is a nice framed photo from the event of that staff, you know, maybe with their friends or with volunteers. And they serve as a great memento, something they can put on their desk, you know, of their efforts, and it's a thank you at the same time. So a nice little touch there.
Yes, for sure, having the logo. Marketing agrees.
Oh,
yeah, that's awesome, Diane. One other thing that I saw an organization do was actually they took a beautiful photo of one of the tables when it was set, and they had obviously purchased an additional tablecloth and cut it in little 2-inch squares, and then sent that with a photo of the centerpiece and of the table in their thank you letters that went out after. And it just brought people back to that. It brought them back to that moment of, oh, that's where we were, and this is what we were doing. So it was really cool. But that, you know, those type of experiences are obviously, you know, what helps build a community, and community building events can go for everyone. You could let donors get to mingle with board members. You can allow your volunteers to get to know the donors, because it's always great when I was in the nonprofit world that when we had docents and volunteers that were consistent with us over and over and over, and we would have board members come through the door, they always knew their name, and it always made a point for that donor and that board member to feel super special. So I always say, you know, creating those real moments for community that eats, sleeps, and breathes their mission is something really amazing. And then, of course, you know, who doesn't love this photo of parties and outings and dinners? I love food. Even if it's not in your Yeah, well, it's 12:30 almost over here on the East Coast, so I could potentially be eating while we're doing this, and I'm not going to tell you guys what it's like
probably wouldn't deliver a great webinar if we were both eating, but okay.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It definitely wouldn't. But parties and outings are a great way. If it's within your budget, appreciation dinners or progressive dinners are really cool to do at a donor's house and have 5 or 6 donors lined up to where there's appetizers at one, there's cocktails at another, there's the main dish at one, there's dessert, and then there's kind of the after party. And it's inexpensive way to put on something that has a big meaning for sure. And what if you had some of those outings that you got one extra cruise donated that you could then repurpose for those people? Awesome things to do is happy hours. Picnics on your property, if you have a property, as far as housing or something along that lines, somewhere on the property, so you're actually bringing those people in again and being immersive within the community. A volunteer day, you can foster connections, showing them ways that they can be involved and let them know the value of much more than money. And then one of my favorites, because again, going back to this photo, I love some food, potluck. It's always fun to do a potluck dinner and bring people in to have a new experience with them.
The potluck is great, Jason, because I know, and sure, I recognize some of the names on the call, the webinar here today. There's not a lot of budget, right, to do these types of things. And so how do we acknowledge in a fun way and show appreciation? So potluck is great. Everybody brings something, if it's, let's say it's a volunteer appreciation, staff could bring things. And if it's a staff appreciation, you can get board members to bring things. And so potluck is just a great way, low cost way to show some appreciation.
Absolutely.
Jason,
and just to continue, one more note on that potluck is I will be the good Southern gentleman, bring my clear Pyrex dish with my brown masking tape and my name taped on the bottom of it.
Good stuff. Oh my gosh.
So I also,
right.
repurposed and unsold auction items. Obviously, if it's a large auction item and you want to hold on to it, maybe doing something beyond the ballroom and having a raffle throughout the year or doing something completely different to raise some additional money, that's great. But if you have massage certificates or a limo ride or nails or God knows everybody loves a good teeth whitening and a Botox, I would definitely suggest, being able to repurpose those to maybe some of your super volunteers that have been there for multiple hours and days on end, and some of your high-end donors. It's just a great way to repurpose what you've been given as a free item that really costs you nothing. And it will make that sponsor happy that you are getting to use that product for sure.
No, that's great. That's a great suggestion. You could even do it as a raffle. So a lot of people get involved. A free raffle, of course, but you can find some fun ways to repurpose those items. So that's awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm sure you've seen this one out there, but many organizations, they'll spotlight specific donors or contributors right on their website. So it could be a blog post, about the success of board members and their involvement in your organization, or even just highlighting a member who, board member who's exceptional or an exceptional donor. Some folks will even use a newsletter. I know organizations, there's a great combination of digital newsletters, e-newsletters. Some organizations I support, I still get a paper newsletter mailed to my home, which is interesting because I actually read that one sometimes more than the digital. Interesting note there. But in that newsletter, you can feature a donor, a board member, or maybe board member of the quarter or donor of the quarter type of thing. So there's some neat things we see out there. And of course, using your website, probably more social media, but even on the website, post photos and the impact of your events and campaigns. So really utilize the resources you currently have. Doesn't even cost you any more. To highlight some of these donors and contributors. And which leads to swag. Swag, right? People love a nice t-shirt. Maybe look at this great Give Smart tote. I wish we had those, Brandon. Can we actually make those? That's kind of cool.
We should tell marketing about that.
Exactly. But pens, whatever makes sense for your organization. So this could be donor swag. It could be volunteer swag. I will tell you that a t-shirt, it's so funny. We go to conferences, out there, and whenever I have one coworker that whenever he passes a booth that has a t-shirt, it's like he goes all over the place to try to get that t-shirt. So people love different things. A little bit of swag goes a long way if you have budget.
He also rates the t-shirts on which one he enjoys.
He does. We all know who we're talking about, right? Yeah, he does. So he loves the t-shirts. So it's a good thing there. So don't forget the swag.
A big thing with swag is make sure you have the logo on it.
Always the logo.
Or a mission statement or a photo, something to remind people where they got that, because people are going to have a pen in their
website. Yeah. Website, phone number. Some pertinent information would be really good for people to be able to remember that. Yes, definitely.
So we have all these different tactics. What are some of the tools and resources that are available to nonprofits to really emphasize these things and accomplish them?
All right, I'll let Jason take this first.
Awesome. God, I love a survey. I love collecting as much information as I possibly can. So Google Form, Jot Form, SurveyMonkey, these also show that you appreciate your guest donors, board members' feedback, and it can kind of give them some insight to the future planning of what you have going on. It also can be very informative on what you did and did not do that worked at your event, because as nonprofit professionals, we get sometimes bogged down, like I said, and we don't see the forest for the trees. I have to remind people sometimes that there's a ladybug that you're staring at, but you're not looking at the entire garden. And so there's many things like that could work with these type of surveys of collecting all kinds of information. And then obviously if you had some input that you took and implemented, it gives the donors a real connection and could potentially bring in a long-term donor, a board member, or a serious volunteer for sure. And Diane, you guys, because of being a tech company, you guys are killing it with some of the things you do. What's the things that you want to talk about next?
You know what, I want to touch on the surveys here because, you brought up a really, really great point, Jason. People really love to give their feedback and they want to know that they're appreciated, right? So if you do happen to take a suggestion from one of those surveys, I think it's a great idea to acknowledge it. Send them a note, say,
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you so much. This is really a great idea. We're going to incorporate this into our next campaign or our next event or that type of thing. And I think that might even make that person think about inviting a few more folks to that event next year. You never know. But that's not the idea. The idea is showing them that gratitude and really not just appreciating that they're showing up and giving their dollars, but that they've got great ideas for the organization. I think folks really, really love that.
They feel like they're making a difference.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
And
they feel closer. They're closer to the mission.
Absolutely. So other tools, I think, most nonprofit organizations have a low budget for things like a graphic designer or that type of thing, but there are some tools out there that can actually help you with your messaging in general, but certainly in showing thanks to your donors and volunteers. Here's a couple different sites that, I don't know if you've checked them out, but we recommend Canva. It's a graphic design site, really easy to use. Even if you're not a graphic designer, kind of steps you through, so makes it really easy to create some neat pieces. And then Capwing is another one. That's a collaborative platform, really about creating images, videos, and gifts. I think in our world here at GiveSmart, there's probably a GIF or a meme that shows up in my inbox or chat every hour, and so they're very popular right now.
And on the marketing side, we even use Canva because it's got a whole database of images for us to.
Oh, that's great.
There. So even if you don't have an image from your event and you want to go share a story, there's a database there for you to go in and utilize their services for that. So those are great. That's a really great resource as well.
I was on both those sites this morning because I like to, do a little extra research before I do these webinars, and both have free versions so that you can start with, and that'll allow you to get started. And then even beyond that, if you want more of the bells and whistles, they have some low cost options. So if you haven't been to either of these sites, we should send them this video of this webinar. Maybe we could get some reciprocal.
We're doing their marketing.
There you go. We're doing
really
the marketing
terrific
for
tools, so why not?
So you heard about it from GiftSmart and Winspire. There you go. So those are some tools for you.
We're going to have another poll here. We want to dig into this a little bit, talk a little bit more about social media. So we are just a simple question of, do you utilize social media to thank your donors? While people are giving their responses in here real quick, Diane, can you talk about a little bit of what we've seen with GiveSmart lately and some of the great things that we've experienced?
Well, GiveSmart, November is a hot month for us, and it is in the nonprofit world. Busy gala month, busy event month. And so just wanted to share a couple of stats with all of you. Since November 1st, so it's the 13th today, right? Since November 1st, we have helped our charity partners run 683 events. 683, that's pretty awesome. But here's the number that we really love. And one of our, the focus of GiveSmart is about helping our charity partners raise as much money as they can through their events and campaigns. And so far, since November 1st, we have helped raise over $66 million. So that's pretty phenomenal. And that's just in 13 days. So good stuff going on out there. We're really excited to continue to help our partners grow their fundraising. How are we doing on our poll here?
Getting pretty good percentage have responded. We'll give it another few seconds here.
Yeah. Do you utilize social media to thank donors? It's a simple yes, no, sometimes, which is kind of yes, but maybe different.
No,
yeah.
Sure.
And then never. So, all right, Brandon, what does it look
we
like?
Launch the results here.
Yeah, let's watch. Okay.
That's interesting. Everybody's just kind of, I'm going to take that and we're going to add that up and just say it's 100%. Everybody says yes.
Exactly. So they are in some way, shape, or form. But I think it's interesting, Jason, 45% are saying sometimes. So what that means is there's an opportunity to kind of improve or have a little more focus on social media.
Yep.
Brandon, we actually have a slide for you. We're letting the moderator talk today.
Scary thought, right?
Well, you know this one.
So we're going to talk really quickly just about some social media and tagging and using collaborative photos. So within Facebook, there's the ability for people to add photos, tag your organization, but also into an event or a group or a post. Say you have your big gala and everyone took a bunch of photos, they can share them in here, tag themselves, tag their friends that were there, and that gives you a great opportunity to not only thank them normally, but also send a quick message of, hey, thanks for supporting us and thanks for being there. We really enjoyed it. And that's another way to recognize your donors, as well as for them to recognize how much fun they had at your event. The flip side, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these different social media platforms allow you to tag others. And a great way to say thank you is to say on social media, hey, thanks, Bob Smith, for supporting our organization at the gala this past weekend. Congratulations on your recent promotion. Say that's on LinkedIn. Things like that, where you're able to interact with them through social media. So the use of tags and the use of photos are different ways to stand out on social media, but also to kind of spread the word throughout social media. Because if they're tagged, that means other people can see, other people can comment, and you never know where that chain can lead to, especially with the way social media is. You never know who's connected to who. One person did message us real quick. There is on Canva, the tool we were talking about earlier, there's a nonprofit pro version that's free. So if you are looking to use Canva, Jessica messaged me and I wanted to make sure we told everyone there's a free nonprofit version. If you go to their website, you should be able to find that.
Nice.
Let's jump into post-event communications now.
Yeah, I'll jump on this one. So for those of you who do events, or even a campaign, this doesn't even have to be event related, you always want to incorporate your cause into that post-event messaging and your thank yous, right? Even for the people who did not donate. I know I have mentioned this in other webinars and even live presentations that I've done at AFP and that type of thing. I mean, it's sometimes an aha moment to some folks who've only been sending thank yous to the people who actually donated, but recognizing everyone who attended or participated in your event or campaign in some way is so important, and making sure that you incorporate your cause into that is valuable. Let's take a look at the next slide, because I think this is going to help you understand why. This is from our donor experience study from 2 years ago, but the top preference for post-event communication is impact report. Donors really want to know how their contributors are contributing to your mission, right? And it could even persuade that non-donor to give in the future. So again, why it's so important to even thank the folks who just showed up, because someday they may be a key donor. And now let's take a look at this this study. We just launched this one, was it, what, 2 weeks ago, Brandon? 3 weeks
Yeah,
ago?
about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So this is a brand new study that we put out there. We asked both donors and planners this question: which of the following do you think is most important when it comes to feeling engaged, or donors feeling engaged after attending a signature event? And this is interesting. Both donors and planners indicated that understanding the cause is important, right? So funny, planners, of course, think it's more important, but that's okay. It's important. It's right there at the top. But take a look at the second one. The donors are also about the fun. Who wouldn't be, right? So let's make sure that we're talking about our cause and providing a fun way for your donors to engage.
We do have a link to this study in the handouts on the right side of your screen. So if you go into handouts, you can download that. We will also be sending the study out afterwards. If you are unable to grab that PDF now, you will be able to get that later.
Excellent. All right, Jason, what do you think about?
I'll take this. I mean, I love this because, you know, it takes more work to put a frown on than put a smile on. And it's always easier just to greet somebody with absolute presence and pressure and pleasure, to be nice to them. It's not really hard to do. So I always say, actually say it. At the end of the day, how you treat people is what matters and what is remembered the most. I have a quote that I love from Mother Teresa. It was, "Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but they are truly endless." So when you thank someone and speak to someone in that level, at a level of kindness, you will get that back, and it will always be remembered at that point in time. So I always say, thank you.
And don't you think sincerity, Jason? I always think like there's something about a sincere thank you, right? Not a necessarily. I mean, I know we have to do those kind of template thank yous sometimes, but a sincere thank you is so valuable. I mean, people just want to be heard and want to be appreciated. And I think all those things you just said, it just 100% is going to make someone's day.
I am
love.
It's
all about love.
Today is.
Oh, I could.
Diane had a fact she wanted to share.
I
was
did.
Excited about
I thought Jason was going to steal my thunder, but do you guys know today is actually National Kindness Day? And so,
almost like we planned that.
I know it is almost like we planned that, but what I'm hoping is everybody walks away from this webinar, and I know we all have, you know, challenges in our work day, but let's treat everybody with kindness, and not just our donors and our volunteers, our staff and board members, but maybe even when we go home tonight to our families, right? So all good stuff.
Depending on what's on the dining room table. Let's go with that.
Absolutely a great way to kind of wrap that up there. And what I wanted to share, kind of summarize everything we just dove through. These slides will be shared, the whole recording will be shared, but there's a few takeaways. We like to summarize these at the end of a webinar as kind of quick reminders. But this one, I would say the blatantly obvious, most important takeaway is remember to thank everyone, as Diane and Jason have emphasized. Utilize the free resources. There are a lot of different resources out there, even beyond what we shared, but look for different tools that are going to make things easier, streamline processes, and that'll definitely make things a lot less hassle and much more enjoyable as you do your thank you after an event or after a campaign. And use your unsold auction items or late donated items or a randomly donated item. It doesn't always have to be something that didn't sell. It can also be something that's off season for you, and maybe it's in season for the donor. We often see people are running these online auctions just for one item, just as a support, but maybe that's a great raffle for a thank you, or a gift for someone who brought in a corporate sponsor. All kinds of different ways you can think outside the box there. And when you thank, seek information, surveys, and different ways to collect a little bit more, learn more about your donors, and then interact across any channel you can. So we talked about all the different ways you can do that: social media, pen and paper, all the different ways that are out there. Utilize as many of those as you can. Finish things up, we have some questions that have come in. Feel free to put those as you continue to go. We'll get started here, and Diane, Jason, I'll kind of throw the questions out there to both of you. I think a lot of these are kind of, either one of you would really have a good input on these, but let's start off with a question here. They'd like to hear more about green options that don't contribute to the landfill, such as the social video link or social video idea. What are some other ways to go green with your thank yous?
I'll jump in. It's always great to be sustainable, and even though email does still have some impact on the environment, that is the least impact that is out there besides social media and viral videos and things along that line. But you could also, if you had sustainable materials that you have worked with or work in education, healthcare, whatever, maybe send them one of those items as well, just as another reminder of what the mission is and what they do. And it's a really cool thank you that, oh, I just got this pencil that was completely grown from hemp, or I got a syringe that was from a cocoa tree, whatever that it may be. That could be really cool to incorporate something like that.
I agree. And I think to add to that, I know we talked about a lot of different ways just through the tools you already have, right? Your own website and the software maybe that you already have. I know that, we don't like to necessarily plug our products, but, if you are using a product like GiftSmart, you can send a text message, and that's a great way just to send a quick thank you to folks and without impacting the environment in any way.
There's a personal feel to that too, right? Mm-hmm. It's a text message and it's directly from the executive director or whoever.
Sure.
I think those are some really good suggestions there. The next question we have, how does an end user distinguish an annual report from their an impact report? What are some ways to distinguish those two different items that they would get?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. So believe it or not, it sounds so simple, but it's really in the titling of the document, right? And so I think an annual report has a feel of this is us as an organization, as a whole, where an impact report, especially if you are, some organizations choose to do especially with a thank you, the impact of the money raised from that particular campaign or event. The annual, of course, is going to be all about year-round, organization as a whole. But, impact, you can get actual testimonials from people who have donated, or, you can find ways to really tie it into that specific campaign or event. But it's really about, I think every organization, if you don't already, you should think about having just a general impact statement, right? Knowing what the money raised by your donors, where that goes and how it impacts that cause. And so if you have these general statements, you can, and this is a marketing thing, I don't want to use the word spin, but you can spin it for whatever the purpose is, whether it's an event thank you or an overall annual kind of messaging. Mm-hmm. Jason, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I would just add, don't get caught up in the words of impact report, because I think you explained it perfectly, that I think that's what one organization calls it, or another organization may call it something completely different. It just if it's after an event, especially, just use it as a friendly conversation tool to keep the message going, really is kind of what you're looking for to get feedback.
Yep.
For sure. And I think that a lot of that refers back to that slide that we talked about, the donor research study that we were talking through. And we've used that in many different presentations and stories, because it is a really great story from the survey. We will share that, a link to that out, so you can dive into that a little bit further, because there's a lot of information in there on the different generations and how they look at things a little bit differently. Diane, you and I do a lot of talking through that with people. So I think that's a useful follow-up to that. The next question we have here is how to bridge the technology gap with older donors and overcome the pushback of things like going mobile with your silent auction instead of paper bid forms? And really, you know, how do you build that into your events to bridge those older, mature donors?
Yeah, you know what, it's interesting because I think, I'll be honest with you, and you guys know your donors best, but I think part of this is within organizations, this is a fear we have, and it's not necessarily the reality of our donors. Yes, do you have older donors out there who don't use technology? You probably do, right? And so that's where having, you know, volunteers and people at your events and calling these people and meeting with these people, it's still so important. But it's interesting. I wish I had known this question was coming in. I was on a vacation a couple weeks ago and I was in Napa. I was at a winery and saw a woman that was definitely senior my years by a lot, sitting there on her iPhone 10, okay, scrolling through, you know, and I can tell you numerous examples of being at events where, you know, just through a quick education, you know, those donors are absolutely happy to use the technology. I'm going to use my own grandmother as an example. I was at a fundraiser with her, said, here you go, Grandma. This is how it works. She goes, this is fantastic. I don't even have to get up from the table. And so she loved it and sat there and did that. And you know what, we are in a technology age. So many folks have iPads and have technology. So I just challenge you to ask yourself, is this your fear or is this your reality with your donors? Because so many of them are using technology.
Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I'm going to speak from the non-sale side of not being in a tech company. I definitely believe in technology, and I think probably there's multiple people that'll be on the phone as well, but I'm based in Florida. So my demographic here is definitely leaning toward the baby boomers and the older generation that is scared of technology. But a couple of years ago, took a photo, and that I'll send to Brandon. Brandon, I would love for you to send this out with when we do some wrap up, but of this lovely couple that both were in their 80s on a park bench at a golfing event where he was bidding on golf clubs and she was bidding on facials. So I don't think that you should be scared of demographic and age range, because it's become such a everyday thing in our lives that we have technology.
That's awesome. I definitely will share that photo when we send the follow-up to the webinar here. I think that's an awesome way to look at it. Next question, I think we've got time for about two or three more. As far as swag, what is the latest and coolest swag item that people will appreciate so we're not wasting our money?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one. And, I love swag. I love to be able to walk away from a trade show with something besides business cards, because it made me think that they were thinking about me when they were showing up and doing it. But, I made history this past week with being the last flight out of the New Orleans airport on the old terminal. And so Southwest went crazy. Yeah, I know, pretty cool. So Southwest went pretty crazy, and they gave me this really cool square piece of neoprene that had their logos on it, and there was Velcro, and you actually attach that around the handle of your luggage so it's more identifiable. I thought that was super cute. It was a super way to brand their items and show their product. I think it was really, really cool. I'll look for some sources like that, and I'll share with you, Brandon, as well.
I think that's great. I think that's something we can share after the fact too. I think that part of it too, though, is don't overthink it, right? Because there are so many things out there, you see these technology related type things, that sometimes the basics, as I told you, a t-shirt is sometimes, as long as it's not like just your logo on the front, if it's a really fun t-shirt, folks love that, and so you want to think of something that is rather practical, that they're going to use. I actually am thinking about the t-shirt thing. I've been in more walks, runs, been to trade shows. I have literally a stack of probably 15 t-shirts in my armoire at home that are my rotating weekend wear. And so I think, don't overthink it.
yeah, make sure
That's
quality.
yeah. I want to add that too. I wanted to add that too. Yeah.
As the marketer, if I put that hat on, even though I'm really not on this one here, look at it as something that's going to be a little bit of a tie back to your story too.
Sure.
If there's an opportunity. American Heart Association is known for giving out the heart-shaped stress balls.
Right.
And that's a simple thought of, this fits, this ties to it. Be a little creative with it, but don't stress yourself out either. I have we're going to do one or two more questions. This one's a little long. I'm going to summarize it. An organization, they feel they're really good at following up right after the event, but one of their challenges is 2 or 3 months after the event, following up with the new attendees or stakeholders or guests. They don't feel they're as effective and feel like they're losing relationships and potential money on the table. What do we think? How can we help? And is it, how important is it to follow up directly after versus further down the line? And what are some easy ways to maybe help there? So long question. Maybe we can give a couple quick tidbits on that one.
Well, in thinking about that, I'm actually, this is triggering the webinar person in me. That might be an opportunity for us to do maybe some kind of a future study on communications and that type of thing, because I don't know, to be honest, if there's really solid data on that, and that would be good for us to capture. But what I can tell you is that we're seeing some really creative things from organizations that, yes, they have this big signature event, right? And they send out that immediate thank you afterwards, but then they're doing these smaller appreciation events throughout the year. And I think that's a great opportunity to invite folks. So I'll give you an example here in Chicago. What's the name of that brewery in Pilsen?
Revolution?
Or Lagunitas?
Lagunitas,
right? Okay, yeah. So they have, we're a nonprofit. I think it's on Tuesday nights. Can do an event, and it's not low cost for sure. It is low cost for sure. And so inviting those folks that maybe didn't donate, those new donors, to just something a little more social and casual, right? So you could do it through events. And then certainly, I am always a huge fan, and I get it if you have so many that this is impossible, but just a quick reach out, whether it's a text message, whether it's a phone call or something, just to say, you know what, thanks again for attending our event a few months ago. Just wanted to invite you to X, Y, or Z. So just the personal invite, the personal reach out. I know that's challenging for some organizations that just have a really long list, but if you can do it, it's kind of a nice reach out.
Well, I don't know this specific scenario, but I'm sure incorporating the board a little bit more on those thank yous might help in just the timeliness, having more people to make those calls. And like Diane said, a text message with a quick link to a video or an event coming up, or even just a news story or news about your cause would be a great way to bridge that gap between the time they were at your event, they were inspired, to down the line where they're getting potentially bombarded with many other messages from people by email and all that.
Jason, anything to add to this one?
Yeah, I just got 2 comments. One, go old school. So when you send out your first thank you or phone call or whatever, get you a little sticky note and put it on your wall of the next time that you need to follow up with them, and just track it. Keep old school. You ought to see my wall. It's covered in, it's almost like Beautiful Mind. It's crazy. But I have sticky notes everywhere. And the second thing is that we're trying to do at once.
You are a beautiful mind, Jason. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. My mother tells me every day the same thing, so I'm very happy about that. One other thing that we're going to try to start doing at Windfires is including an additional like $25 or $50 gift certificate within the package itself. So once it's sold, that organization can they can give it to that donor or whatever, or they can hold on to that and then schedule an afternoon happy hour, cocktails, lunch, dinner, and use that money. So they're not having to go back and get more approved for their budget, and it's already built in that the donor paid for it, and it's a nice thank you follow up with them as well. Because I am a true believer of face-to-face is the way you continue to build relationships and sell product.
That's awesome. I love the comparison to A Beautiful Mind there too. That's just a great tie-in. One more question here. So we have a question about the timeline for thank yous. What would you recommend is the best timeline for all thank yous? I'm kind of making the assumption of this question that it's after your event, especially when you have to wait for photos from the photographer and things like that. Is it, do you have a recommendation for the time frame before it gets kind of lost?
Yeah, I think
I will just go with.
Go ahead, Jason. No, you go.
Yeah, I'll just say I'll go by the old rules of Emily Post within 2 weeks.
There you go. And
Within
I would
2
say
weeks,
you can always do. I agree. I think within 2 weeks is great. Certainly within 30 days, but this is kind of like the 1-2 punch technique. I think it's great to send that thank you, and then why not? If the photographer didn't get you the link to the photos or any photos until 2 weeks later, send them something again, or email them with the link again. It's constant touch points that are just about, hey, thanks so much, and we appreciate you. Here's some great images and that type of thing.
Awesome.
Yep.
Jason, anything to add to that?
No, I think it's been helpful. I've learned a lot as well, which is good. And I hope that the audience has learned a lot as well, and they can implement some of those wonderful things. And they can always feel free to reach out to us at Windspire or Community Brands and do everything they need to do.
That's well said. Yeah, and if there is follow-up questions, we do have a survey afterwards that you can drop those in. If you thought of it right as we end here. The next Give Smart webinar will be in the second week of December. I believe it's the 12th. That topic will be year-round giving, a campaign for every month. We will include information on that in the follow-up email along with the recording. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Jason, for jumping in here. I hope everyone enjoyed with our lackluster humor every once in a while. And thanks again for everyone joining.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.